Hey guys, had some issues with this particular phone I'm using, and it's working now. So let's get to it. Um, I do plan to at some later point do a video on a theory that the Gulf Stream is weakening and how that could lead to much worse winters, stronger storms, and to famines. That's what I always go back to. How does this climate change stuff affects? How does it affect people? How does it affect communities? Because when people get into the science, I think the science gets confusing sometimes, and it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a climatologist to understand what stronger storms will do to your community. You don't have to be a climatologist to understand what hotter summers are going to look like, shorter summers and stuff like that. And these areas that have been growing certain types of staple crops, what if next year they can't do that anymore? That will be a major shift and people will go bankrupt. And it will cause famines, no doubt. It will cause famines. But today I want to talk about the failure of U.S. intelligence agencies in predicting the fall of Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. So I understand that intelligence agencies said that it would take 90 days. It took in less than a week. The war's over with. And I've been looking back at some of the comments Joe Biden made about how they had 300,000 troops. And now, from what I'm understanding, they didn't have that many. That a lot of that was ghost troops. These were soldiers on paper. Let's go into that. Obviously, I'm not supporting the Taliban. I'm not pushing that nonsense. I'm not pushing a theocracy on anybody, whether it's Christian or Muslim or any. I'm not supporting a handmaiden tale. If a woman cannot read, if a woman cannot write, she cannot fulfill her destiny. So let's start with that. But I'm no friend to empire. And I'm certainly not a friend to puppet governments, which is what the Afghan government was a puppet government. You guys have heard, just like I have heard, that these warlords were raping kids, kidnapping and raping kids, and that people warned them and were told to remain silent about it. There was a Green Beret that got kicked out of the service for that. Just because I don't like the Taliban, just because you don't like a political group, doesn't mean that their enemy is legitimate, because they weren't. I want to be very clear about that. The fact that Joe Biden lied, or I guess at best didn't know, at worst he lied to the American people that 3,000 troops when you didn't really have half that, is problematic. And as well as the fact, if he was lied to or whatever, and the government of Afghanistan, the puppet government, was telling the Americans something that wasn't true, that belies the point. They were illegitimate and untrustworthy. And after 20 years of war on the basis of a lie, they haven't gotten anywhere. They haven't gotten anywhere. It's like a balloon blowing air in a balloon and letting it go. Ain't gonna, the minute you let go of it, as long as you're holding it, you got air in there, and you're holding it, it's gonna stay aloft. I just I think that this is an embarrassment to the empire as well as to the Biden administration. It's too soon to see how the American people will see it, because the war had to end. The war had to end. I think it was one of those things that we weren't going to be able to choose. Okay, question. what if Trump was in there and said, we're going to hit them back? So you want them to send in more troops to die when we're going to leave anyway? That's Vietnam. That's what Vietnam was. They knew the war wasn't going well. And LBJ, out of that spirit of arrogance, was like, we don't cut and run. We don't cut and run. These colors don't run. And so you lost more people. Thousands more. When I started learning about that, I kind of lost all legitimacy in the U.S. government and the military as a whole. That they knew the war was unwinnable, and they stayed in there anyway because of this jingoistic macho bullshit. And you're heroes for ghosts, in a way. Heroes for ghosts. I think the Afghan forces were illegitimate. From what I've been hearing and looking at, now after the fact, about soldiers poison other soldiers, and then they go in and stab them while they're sleeping and stuff like that. I have to say, I don't think the Afghan government was ever illegitimate. Well, it was ever legitimate. And I must say as well that I think that the Biden lying and or the corruption of the indigenous forces, it really brings back, it harkens to the fall of Saigon. And someone asked Joe Biden about that, and Joe Biden was like, no, they had like 2 brigades, all this bullshit. And he lied. And just like back then, them lying, they lied here. No, I don't know everything about the fall of Saigon. No, I don't ever know everything about this Kabul thing. There's still a discussion that the intelligence was on point, but the Biden administration didn't research, didn't read it properly, didn't go off it. And that may be true. It remains to be seen. But my point is, this is a disgrace and an embarrassment. And once again, I hope it shows the rest of the world America isn't to be trusted. I hope it shows that America is really, really illegitimate. This is an illegitimate government, and that America has no allies. America has interests. I always tell people that they have no. It's like when I was working for SRT. That wasn't my truck. I never called it my truck. I understood I worked for them. That was it. The same thing with America. They have no allies. You can work with them. You can do certain things. But never forget, this is an empire. Anyway, thanks for listening.